5 years of brutally honest, systematic trading advice. I'm Manu, also known as Ghost of Trades, and I also run Unbiased Trading. Let's get straight into this. This is personally from my own 5 years of experience trading. I actually have about 5 years and a half, give or take, just coming up to it. But trading has been incredibly difficult challenge coming up to this, and luckily I have been profitable for a while now. But here are primarily 7 tips that have really helped me over the years. Don't rush into trading with capital. It's much better to focus on execution first. Now, capital always feels like the answer, especially when you are newer to trading, but focus on honing execution first. Smaller accounts definitely will suffer from transaction costs, making edges harder to actually be profitable from because transaction costs, eat into so much of the percentage of profits that you're actually making from that capital. But the fact is many of the times the initial capital that you put into trading is going to be lost in the first year. So there's no reason really in the first year to be aiming to make as much profit as possible, and that reason being that you don't need that much capital. You just actually need to be honing your strategy and execution primarily. So prioritize strategy development and testing with simulated capital, or even low capital to get used to actually trading the market in real time and kind of having that first initial emotions when you do come into trading, as that will happen, and it's going to be most likely a very new sensation to a lot of you. At least it was to me. It will never be easy. Your edge may work flawlessly for a while, but due to market shifts, it will end up needing refinement or potentially stop working altogether. Whether automated or discretionary, the journey involves perpetual research and strategy adjustments. So continued success demands adaptation. This is really a early thing I thought was apparent in trading. Everyone used to say, or maybe it was just me thinking about it, was that once I hone this strategy, I'll be set, and then I'll be making this amount every single year, and that's gonna be happening over my whole life, and then I get to compound that, and maybe I could invest some of it into the S&P, and then blah blah blah. You're gonna go down a rabbit hole of everything that you assume is gonna happen if you can, lock down this one strategy and be profitable from it. The reality is trading actually is a set of skills, and those skills are mainly adaptation. And obviously there's a lot of like strategy development and things like that, but um, you need to be able to adapt. Otherwise, you will at some point die, or your profits at least will heavily decrease. Now, that may not be, a sign where you need to be adapting for the next 50 years. Maybe you work incredibly hard on trading and you make a really sizable amount of money in 10 years, 5 years, and then you use that money and go into lower risk assets like bonds or setting up a portfolio using SPY or something like that. That definitely can be a trajectory that you may want to go down. However, the point is that don't expect that trading is going to be the same, in the next 10 years or in the next year. Markets really do shift and things will really stop working at some point. I know a lot of traders that had really amazing, easy, long strategies in 2020, and 2022, 2023, 2024 have been rough for pretty much all of them. And the only ones that actually survived are the ones that were able to adapt. So adaptation is crucial. Strengths move the needle. Focus on areas where you naturally excel. This offers two advantages: faster progress due to compounding knowledge, and a better fit for your personality. When I aligned with my data and statistic strengths, my systematic approach yielded 3 times faster progress compared to discretionary trading. Now, this is an idea I like to describe it as that if you're not fitting to your personality and what your strengths are, you may be trying to push, a rock up a hill when you could be doing a much easier activity or with much more pros and strengths coming behind you, being able to, boost you going towards that progress. My apologies for the bad metaphor there, but hopefully you kind of get the idea that I'm trying to convey across. Mainly for me, I was not naturally talented with pattern recognition or really anything that goes along with discretionary trading. And I know some people actually are. Some people really do come into trading and they have something about pattern recognition that just works for them really well. And they can just stare at a chart all day for 2 years and then really pick up very unique things that move a stock or unique things that they found. And that can really be beneficial to them. So I'm definitely not a component saying systematic trading is for everyone or algorithmic trading is for everyone. But at least in my opinion, I want to expose this kind of world to as many people as possible so that more and more people can understand if this is, a path they want to go down with algorithmic or systematic trading. I do personally still believe that there is a huge realm of exponential kind of progress when you match experience with data. But realistically, I think this video is more aimed to people beginning or medium tier where maybe you haven't got as much experience and being profitable for a while. So the key point here is the strengths will move the progress bar faster than focusing on your weaknesses or trying to fix those as much as possible. Now, there are some weaknesses you will need to try and fix. For example, if you can't stick to proper risk management, then there isn't much help, really anything else can do to allow you to make consistent progress. If you're blowing up every 4 weeks, there is not really a strategy out there that's going to be able to save you from that. The only thing that can save you from that is sending in maybe automated risk management if you cannot rely on yourself. This personally was the case for me. I have never personally been very good at risk management just when I'm in a trade. I've been better at risk management when I'm on a higher time frame, meaning like I'm managing risk over a week, over a month, things like that. I'm actually quite good at that, at least currently. But in a trade, I was terrible. I would blow up or take a huge loss on a particular trade very easily for me. So personally, a lot of risk management techniques I've kind of moved out into the broker side of things to make sure my broker has my max loss and all those kind of things for intraday and trade specific things. And then I'm managing the risk of the kind of portfolio strategies, on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, which is a lot easier for me to actually consistently and objectively look at and think about. So just some food for thought there. Systematic trading relies on specific conditions, not just a checklist. Now, I've had the privilege to work with 200 plus traders now, whether that be retail, institutional, or prop shops, on a huge array of different strategies when we've been converting them into algorithms or backtesting them. But over that time, I've also had many calls with different traders that were interested in working with us, or just anything really around backtesting. And pretty much everyone, I will say, says they have a simple system. While this primarily is, I would say, about 80% of the time not true, many people believe they have a simple system because it is simple to them, and that's not actually what defines a simple system. Many people will say, "Hey, I'm just wanting to do this particular strategy around market structure, and I have these order flow kind of confirmation things as the confirmed trade." Now, that is very simple to say. That isn't simple to actually turn into a systematic trading strategy that you can objectively and repeatedly look at and evaluate. To actually become more systematic, you need to turn them into specific quantifiable criteria for entry and exit signals. Um, if you I don't know. The quickest way I've normally helped people do this is by jumping on call with them for about 30 minutes, and we get to quantify, and I get to use my experience to help them break down those sort of ideas. But if you're going to be doing this alone, realistically, using if and or statements is the most crucial, and being incredibly specific about how a condition is being met. So, for example, if you were to say, "Hey, I'm looking for a higher high to be broken," well, how is that higher high being defined? Are we using, William fractals? How are you defining what is a swing high? All those kind of things. And then next is, how many bars are related to that? What about if there's a higher high, but it happens, X amount of bars between each other? Is that still true? Is that not true? What about if there's a high higher in a range for a while and then it takes, X amount of bars to actually break out? Maybe it's the next day that it breaks out. Does that still mean it is true? There's a lot of things around there that you need to be able to define to properly say and repeatedly look at to see if that actually qualifies as a valid trigger. And this is incredibly important for systematic trading and going into the algorithmic side of things. Out of sample data above all. A strategy must pass an out of sample test to be valid in live markets. If it fails on out of sample data, it is unlikely to work in real time. You need effective strategies, not just impressive backtests. This is incredibly important because I still see so many people only backtesting once and just using a historical data set and then backtesting over it. That is great, but if you've optimized over that whole historical data set, you're going to be left realistically with probably an overfitted strategy. And what you need to do there is split that data into two sets, in sample and out of sample, or you can do something called a walk forward optimization. I've also got a video on that kind of topic on my YouTube if you want to check it out. But those kind of techniques are very important to actually get a realistic idea of how the strategy would perform on unseen data, which is primarily unseen data is live data. So when you imagine taking a strategy live, it is now reacting to data it's never seen before and never been optimized on. So that kind of is the term unseen data because it's never got into it. Also, you call it sample data and things like that. So yeah, this is a very simple quote, but a very strong meaning, at least to me. Complexity gets you in trouble. Each added layer increases the risk of overfitting. While complexity can be achieved, it demands more rigorous testing and is generally harder to maintain. A well diverse portfolio of simple strategies often proves more robust than a single intricate one. Now, this is for the point that I often hear as kind of like a comeback, I guess, in the sense that, I say focus on simple strategies because they most likely will do better. They're going to be less overfit. They may not be incredible returns, but if you create a portfolio, then it can be, it can do well as a portfolio strategies. But then people will say, hey, but like, hedge funds run some of the most complex strategies and things like that. And yes, that is completely true. Complex strategies do and can work. The problem there is you have to be quite smart to actually get a complex strategy that is not overfit, especially when you're dealing with machine learning and things like that. It is actually a very delicate task to accomplish to not just overfit on historical data and noise and actually come out with something that can be working on unseen data, as we were saying before. So my realistic, or at least what I do in my position, is I focus on simplicity over complexity because I can get to the end goal a bit easier than if I just focus on one very complex strategy. Now, if for some reason you discovered the holy grail of a strategy and it was really complex, but it worked on unseen data and it worked on live markets, then yeah, go 100%. Whatever gets you the return, you should use it. But at least for building strategies and things like that, I do think simpler normally goes better. Responsibility breeds improvement. In trading, most problems stem from your decisions. Embrace this harsh reality. It empowers you to take control, analyze, adapt, iterate, and improve for the next trade. Blaming others only leads to stagnation. And this is a really easy concept, I think, but is kind of one of those ones that is harder to execute in real time. Everyone says, "Hey, I take responsibility for my mistakes and things like that." But when you're actually in the heat of the moment and you've just made a huge mistake and you want to blame everything else but yourself, that's when it actually truly matters. And it's the same thing with like drawdowns and things like that. And at least what I've learned is anytime I catch myself saying, "Oh no, it was because of this," I just catch myself and try and say, "No, actually, potentially it could have been my fault because of this X reason." And the word potentially there kind of softens the blow where you're saying, hey, this could be my fault because of this reason. And it's not directly saying, hey, 100% this is my fault, which can be harder to, console within yourself, especially if you've lost money. And, any trader knows when you've lost money, it does hurt. I don't really care what anyone says that, hey, it doesn't affect me at all. It does. And it's going to feel a bit shit, at least for a bit. But I think that responsibility is the only way you actually move past that mistake or that issue, and then you actually get into the important part where you're analyzing how you made that mistake, what you can do differently next time. And fundamentally, there's normally two groups. There's one group where the mistake was built into the strategy by itself. So maybe it was a risk parameter you overlooked and you should have actually added to the strategy. So that's something that you need to, consolidate in the strategy. And then the second is based on execution and your own handling of that strategy. Now, that could be you've changed the parameter values too often. That could be you changed an individual trade, all those kind of things where they can cause to mistakes based on performance. And that's where you really need to take responsibility. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed, please like it and share it with anyone else who might be interested.